Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining me as we dive into another astonishing journey into the world of rare coins, unexpected treasures, and unbelievable valuations that leave collectors stunned and everyday people speechless. Today we open the door to a story that stretches far beyond the ordinary, a story that begins with a small copper coin that millions of people have held in their hands without realizing what it could become decades later. We're talking about the 1963 Liberty Lincoln 1-cent coin, a simple penny struck at the Denver Mint, a coin most people would never give a second glance. Yet under extraordinary, extremely rare conditions involving mint errors, striking mistakes, planchet anomalies, and mint mark irregularities, this unassuming penny becomes a piece capable of reaching a theoretical value of $919,000 million. A number so massive that it forces us to rethink what rarity truly means. And today's script is a deep, flowing, uninterrupted story exploring that possibility in detail, from start to finish, without headings or visuals or instructions, just pure narrative designed for a captivating YouTube video. Imagine for a moment the year 1963. The United States Mint was still striking the classic wheat ears reverse just a few years earlier, but by 1963 we were already well within the era of the memorial reverse design. Millions upon millions of pennies were being produced every single day, and the Denver Mint was operating at full speed, generating vast quantities of coins to meet national demand. To the workers at the mint, each coin was just another piece of copper, another unit of currency, another routine product of an enormous industrial process. But within that process, hidden somewhere among the countless perfectly ordinary coins, there were always possibilities of the extraordinary. A small misalignment here, a mispunched mint mark there, a defective planchet slipping into the press undetected, or a die damaged in a way nobody notices until it's too late. These moments of imperfection are the seeds of rarity, the very events that can transform a common coin into a once-in-a-generation treasure. And today, we're exploring every layer of possibilities that could turn a normal 1963 penny into one of the most valuable coins ever imagined. Every type of minting error, every potential combination of anomalies, every dramatic mistake that could produce a coin so unique that no other example exists anywhere. Because when a coin becomes a one-of-one anomaly, a true singularity in the numismatic universe, its theoretical value becomes limitless. That is where the staggering figure of $919,000 million enters the conversation. Not because such a coin has been bought for that amount, but because collectors understand that true uniqueness in the world of mint errors cannot be duplicated. And when something cannot be duplicated, its value rises beyond anything the average person can imagine. To understand how this is possible, you first need to see how errors happen. The minting process is built on precision, but even the most precise machines fail at times. Dies crack, collars shift, planchets jam, punches misalign, and metal compositions vary. Even small vibrations in the factory floor or a single microscopic flaw in the metal can cause something extraordinary. And because quality control back in the early 1960s was not as advanced as it is today, more mistakes slipped into circulation than people realize. Some were minor, some were dramatic, and some were so unusual that decades later they remain the subject of speculation and fascination. Imagine someone discovering a coin displaying multiple errors at once. A coin that shows doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust. A coin where the mint mark is punched sideways or appears twice. A coin struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. A coin that is off-center yet still retains its full date and mint mark. A coin that shows deep die cracks that split across Lincoln's portrait like lightning frozen in metal. These aren't theoretical impossibilities. Every single one of these errors has happened in other years, in other minting cycles, to other coins. So the idea that a 1963 penny could contain one or two, or even three overlapping errors, is not fantasy. And if such a coin existed, it would be one of the most breathtaking discoveries ever. Double die errors are among the most sought after in the world of Lincoln cents. When the die used to strike the coin is improperly hubbed, it can result in a doubling effect on the letters, numbers, or design elements. Imagine Liberty doubled boldly, or the date 1963 showing clear separation in its digits. A dramatic double die alone can push a coin's value into the tens or hundreds of thousands. Now imagine that same coin struck at the Denver Mint with a D mint mark that appears repunched, tilted, doubled, or shifted. A double die combined with a mint mark variety could create a coin so rare that collectors would elevate it to legendary status immediately. Another possibility involves the planchet. Planchets are the blank discs of metal used to strike coins. If a planchet is defective, the resulting coin becomes a rarity. A clipped planchet that cuts through the rim, a cracked planchet that leaves a jagged impression in the finished coin, a lamination error where a layer of copper peels away like bark. These are powerful and valuable errors by themselves. But imagine if a 1963 D penny were struck on a completely wrong planchet, such as a copper nickel dime blank or a leftover foreign planchet. Errors like that have happened in many years, and coins struck on wrong planchets often sell for tens of thousands. Combined with a major doubling or mispunched mint mark, their value becomes extraordinary. The mint mark itself is a major source of potential rarity. In 1963, mint marks were still manually punched into the working dies. This means human hands were responsible for placing the D that designates Denver. And whenever humans are involved, mistakes are possible. A crooked mint mark, a mint mark punched too high or too low, a mint mark punched more than once, or even a mint mark punched into a damaged area of the die could create a completely unique variety. Collectors call these RPMs, or repunched mint marks. Some RPMs are dramatic, with a clear shadow of a second mint mark. Others are subtle, requiring magnification to appreciate. But all are valuable. Now imagine a repunched mint mark appearing on a coin with other dramatic errors. The rarity multiplies instantly. Then we enter the world of striking errors. The most dramatic among these include off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly aligned under the die, causing the design to appear shifted to one side. Coins struck 10%, 20%, or even 50% off-center can be extremely valuable, especially if the date and mint mark remain visible. A 1963 D penny struck off-center while retaining the full date and mint mark could already be worth thousands. But if it also includes doubling, mint mark anomalies, or a defective planchet, the value escalates into legendary territory. Another dramatic error involves broad strikes. These occur when the retaining collar fails to contain the expanding metal, allowing the coin to spread outwards like a pancake. Broad-struck coins look extremely unusual and collectors prize them for their odd appearance. Now picture a broad strike combined with an off-center strike, or with a dramatic die crack, creating a coin that looks more like a minting explosion than a standard penny. A coin like that would be considered unique immediately. Overstrikes are another rare and incredible category. These happen when a coin is struck more than once, sometimes even on top of a coin from another denomination or another year. An overstruck 1963 D penny, for example, could show ghostly outlines of previous designs underneath Lincoln's portrait. Overstruck coins are among the rarest types of errors in existence. If such an overstrike occurred on a wrong planchet or with a double die, it would become nearly priceless. Now imagine combining several of these errors into one coin. A coin struck off-center on a wrong planchet with a double die and a repunched mint mark. Or a coin showing deep die cracks, a dramatic broad strike, and a mint mark punched at an angle. These combinations are so rare that only one example might ever exist. And when only one example exists, collectors begin valuing the coin based on uniqueness rather than market comparisons. That's when we enter the realm of $919,000 million. Because the value becomes symbolic. It represents the concept of ultimate rarity, historic significance, and numismatic mythology. The 1963 D penny is especially fascinating because it exists in a transitional moment. It is from a time before the assassination of President Kennedy, before the coin shortage of the mid-1960s, before the elimination of silver in U.S. coinage. It is a coin that belongs to a simpler era, a coin that circulated widely yet quietly. And because so many were produced, the idea that a single extraordinary error may be hiding somewhere among them becomes both thrilling and believable. Now my dears, we explore another astonishing story from the world of rare coins, unexpected treasures, and the unimaginable possibilities that lie hidden in the smallest piece of metal you can hold between your fingers. Now we're taking a long, deep journey into the world of the 1964 Liberty Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that millions of Americans used for everyday purchases, tossed into jars, slid across countertops, and never looked at twice. Yet within the massive production of 1964 pennies, there exists the possibility of something truly extraordinary, something so rare and so unique that its theoretical value reaches the unbelievable amount of $918,000 million. This script flows without headings or instructions, only a natural storytelling style designed for viewers to get lost in, beginning with a warm welcome and unfolding into an uninterrupted narrative of rarity, mystery, history, and numismatic imagination. Welcome to a world where a simple copper penny transforms into a legendary artifact, where the smallest errors create the biggest possibilities, and where a coin struck at the Denver Mint in 1964 could, under the right combination of minting anomalies, surpass any valuation ever imagined for a Lincoln cent. So sit back, relax, and get ready to step into a story where a nearly worthless coin becomes a symbol of immense potential, a treasure that collectors would dream about, and a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary things hide in plain sight. The year 1964 was one of transition, tension, and transformation in the history of U.S. coins. The Mint was producing massive quantities of pennies to satisfy national demand, and an economic shift was already beginning that would soon lead to the elimination of silver in American coinage. But pennies in 1964 were still made of solid copper, their appearance and feel familiar, comforting, and durable. The Denver Mint that year struck an enormous number of coins, including hundreds of millions of 1-cent pieces. Within this massive production, the chances of minting errors increased dramatically. Every time a die cracked, every time a planchet misfed, every time a mint mark was punched unevenly, the door opened for the creation of a rare, valuable, and completely unique coin. Now imagine a single penny, struck in 1964 at the Denver Mint, passing through this fast-moving, high-pressure environment, and emerging with a combination of errors so dramatic that no other coin in history matches it. Imagine this coin surfacing decades later, discovered not in a museum or a private collection, but in someone's desk drawer or an old box of change that had been forgotten for years. The realization that such a coin could exist is what fuels collectors, inspires researchers, and excites everyday people who hold on to their childhood pennies just in case one day they discover something that changes their lives forever. When we talk about a coin reaching a theoretical value of $918,000 million, we are not talking about a normal coin. We're not even talking about an ordinary error coin. We're talking about something beyond rare, something that might be the only one of its kind, with a combination of minting anomalies so extraordinary that the coin becomes a legend in the world of numismatics. And to understand how a 1964 penny could reach such a mind-blowing valuation, we have to dive deeply into the world of mint errors, die varieties, planchet mistakes, and mint mark anomalies. Let's begin with doubling. Double die errors are caused during the process of creating the working dies used to strike the coins. If the hub misaligns during the die creation process, doubling can appear on the letters of liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," the date 1964, or even the mint mark D. Some double die coins show light doubling that can only be seen with magnification, while others display bold, dramatic doubling visible even to the naked eye. And when doubling is strong, collectors go wild, with values skyrocketing. A strong double die on a 1964 penny would already be rare. But imagine if that doubling occurred on multiple design elements simultaneously, doubling on Liberty, doubling on the date, doubling on Lincoln's eye, or even a doubled mint mark that creates a shadow effect. A coin like that would instantly be recognized as extraordinary, but doubling alone is not enough to create a coin worth hundreds of millions. The second key to extreme rarity is the planchet. Planchets are the blanks used to strike coins, and in the 1960s, thousands of them passed through the minting lines every hour. Mistakes sometimes occurred. A planchet might be improperly cut, resulting in a clipped planchet error. Or the metal might contain impurities, causing lamination cracks that peel or flake away. More dramatic still is the possibility of a penny being struck on a wrong planchet entirely, such as a dime blank, a foreign coin blank, or even a leftover blank from a previous batch. Wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable mint errors, especially when the coin still retains the full date and mint mark. Now imagine if this hypothetical 1964 D penny was struck on a wrong planchet, showing a strange metallic sheen different from the typical copper color. Perhaps it is slimmer than a normal penny, or lighter in weight. Perhaps its edges appear irregular, or its surface reveals signs that it was never meant to be a penny at all. Such a coin would already be worth a fortune. But if this wrong planchet strike also includes doubling, the rarity compounds even further. The mint mark offers another layer of potential rarity. In 1964, mint marks were still punched manually into the working dies, which means a human being physically struck the small d into the die with a hand-held tool. This process was prone to mistakes. A mint mark might be punched twice, creating a repunched mint mark RPM. It might be punched tilted, sideways, too high, or too low. Sometimes the first punch might be faint or misaligned, leaving behind a shallow impression that is corrected with a second punch. RPM varieties are extremely collectible, and some fetch enormous prices when discovered in high grades. A 1964 D penny with a dramatic RPM 1 where the underlying D is clearly visible beneath the primary one would already be an important coin, but imagine a coin where the mint mark is not just repunched once, but multiple times. Imagine 3 or 4 shadows beneath the primary D, creating a striking, unmistakable set of overlapping mint marks. A multi-RPM coin is already an incredible discovery. Now imagine this RPM appearing on a wrong planchet struck with a double die. The rarity is now multiplying exponentially. Next, consider striking errors. These occur when the coin is being struck by the dies. If the coin is not centered properly, you get an off-center strike. If the retaining collar fails, you get a broad strike. If the coin is struck more than once, you get a double strike or a triple strike. Each of these errors alone can bring significant value. An off-center 1964 D penny where the date and mint mark remain visible could be worth thousands. A double-struck penny could be worth even more, especially if the second strike is rotated or dramatically offset. Now imagine a coin that shows an off-center strike with doubling, a wrong planchet, and multiple mint mark punches. Such a coin becomes a once-in-a-century piece. Die cracks and cuds offer another layer of rarity. As dies age, they can crack or break. A die crack might run across Lincoln's face, across the date, or across the reverse design. A cut occurs when a piece of the die breaks away completely, leaving behind a large raised blob of metal on the coin. Die cracks and cuds can add substantial value, especially when they are large and dramatic. Now imagine a 1964 D penny with a massive cut over the rim, a strong die crack running across the portrait, and doubling in multiple design elements, all struck on a wrong planchet with a triple-punched mint mark. This is the kind of coin that transcends normal collecting and enters mythical status. Overstrikes are even rarer. An overstrike occurs when a coin is struck on top of another previously struck coin. Imagine a 1964 D penny struck on top of another penny, creating ghostly outlines of previous design elements visible beneath the new strike. Or even more dramatic, imagine a 1964 D penny struck on top of a different denomination like a dime or a foreign coin. Overstrikes are among the most valuable errors in existence because they are visually stunning, undeniably rare, and impossible to duplicate. An overstrike combined with doubling, a wrong planchet, RPM, and other errors becomes priceless. The combination of errors is what creates astronomical theoretical value. A coin with one error is valuable. A coin with two is extremely valuable. But a coin with multiple overlapping errors, major doubling, wrong planchet, overstrike, dramatic RPM, off-center strike, massive die crack, and lamination becomes a one-of-one anomaly in numismatic history. And when a coin becomes unique, its value becomes theoretical, symbolic, and bound only by imagination and collector desire. My very important coin fellows, now once again we dive into one of the most fascinating, unbelievable, and imagination capturing stories in the entire world of rare coins. Now we are stepping into the mysterious world of the 1970 Liberty 1-cent Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of people handled casually, tossed into jars, carried in pockets, dropped between couch cushions, spent on candy, and ignored for decades without ever suspecting the possibility that among those countless simple copper pennies, a single extraordinary one might exist. And this extraordinary penny, due to the rarest combination of errors, minting mistakes, and unrepeatable conditions at the Denver Mint, could theoretically hold a value so unimaginably high that it challenges everything you thought you knew about coins. Imagine a penny valued at $912 million. A 1970 penny, worth $912,000 million instead of one single cent. A number so unbelievable, so dizzying, so ridiculous that the moment you hear it, your curiosity ignites instantly and you want to know how in the world such a thing could even be possible. So let's begin with a simple warm welcome. I appreciate you for tuning in, for taking the time to explore this story, because what you are about to hear is not just about a coin. It's about history, mystery, accidental brilliance, minting secrets, hidden variations, and the kind of numismatic excitement that inspires treasure hunters around the world. This is the story of how an ordinary-looking penny from 1970, minted in Denver, could possibly be one of the most valuable coins ever imagined. And while most 1970 pennies are completely ordinary, this script explores the dream scenario, the perfect storm of errors and missteps that could push a coin from pocket change to a historical artifact with a value reaching hundreds of millions of dollars. To understand this strange possibility, you need to picture what the world was like in 1970. It was a year full of global changes, political debates, cultural shifts, and technological advancement. In the middle of all that, the U.S. Mint continued its operations like a massive machine, producing billions of coins to keep the national economy running. The Denver Mint, responsible for the 1970 penny, was working at full force, striking enormous quantities of Lincoln cents every day. The workers, machines, presses, dies, and planchets were all operating at maximum speed. And whenever a system produces hundreds of millions of anything, errors inevitably slip through. Most of these errors are tiny, often unnoticed, and usually destroyed before they enter circulation. But sometimes, extremely rarely, an error coin escapes the system, and that is where legends are born. So what makes the 1970 penny such an interesting candidate for these extreme values? The first factor is the sheer number of known varieties. The 1970 year produced multiple repunched mint marks, double die varieties, and unusual variations. Even today, collectors still discover minor varieties they hadn't noticed years earlier. That means the potential for unseen or undocumented errors is always present. And when an error is discovered after decades, especially if only one example exists, its value is based not just on rarity but on impossibility. A one-of-a-kind error coin is not just rare, it is irreplaceable. One of the most valuable types of minting mistakes involves mismatched dies. Every coin has a front die and a back die, carefully engraved to match. But imagine that during a hectic shift at the Denver Mint, a worker accidentally paired the wrong die combinations. Maybe a leftover proof die from the San Francisco Mint somehow ended up in Denver. Maybe a die intended for a previous year accidentally slipped into the rotation. Maybe a hub error caused a hybrid design to appear on only a single die. These mistakes would be so unusual and so easily overlooked that they could create a coin unlike any other, a coin that would be treasured by collectors and studied by experts endlessly. Then there are double dies. Double die errors occur when the engraved design is impressed onto a die twice at slightly different angles or positions. When coins are struck using that die, the letters and numbers appear doubled, and depending on the strength of the doubling, the coins can be worth hundreds, thousands, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. If a 1970 penny were to display extremely dramatic doubling on the date, the Liberty inscription, or even Lincoln's profile, and if that doubling were combined with other rare errors, the theoretical value could skyrocket in a way that almost seems fictional. Another powerful contributor to extreme value is the possibility of a repunched mint mark. Before the mid-1980s, mint marks were punched by hand. This process was not automated, so there was always the chance that the punch could slip, shift, bounce, or strike the die more than once. When this happens, the result is a repunched mint mark, or RPM. For the 1970 penny, collectors have found several RPM varieties already, but a dramatic, bold, obvious RPM with multiple impressions could elevate a coin's desirability beyond anything expected. If such an RPM combined with a doubled die, it would be an error collector's dream coin. Add an off-center strike on top of that, and you're entering mythical territory. Let's take that even further. Imagine that this hypothetical 1970 penny was struck not only with a double die and repunched mint mark, but also on the wrong planchet. A planchet is the blank metal disc used to create a coin. If a penny is accidentally struck on a foreign coin planchet, or on a leftover planchet from another denomination, its value increases dramatically. A penny struck on a dime planchet would be smaller, thinner, and silver-colored. A penny struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin could reveal strange coloration or unusual metal composition. These types of mistakes are incredibly rare. But even the rarest errors usually have at least a few surviving examples. Now imagine if one such coin existed but escaped detection for decades. Once found, its novelty and uniqueness could push its value to the extreme. Even more fascinating are transitional errors. Transitional errors occur when a mint mistakenly uses materials or designs intended for a different year. For example, in 1970, lingering planchets from experimental compositions might still have been present. If a penny were accidentally struck on one of these experimental blanks, the resulting coin would be an anomaly unlike anything collectors have seen. Because transitional errors are so rare, they often become some of the most valuable coins ever discovered. And if a transitional planchet error combined with a double die and a mint mark anomaly, you have the kind of coin that collectors discuss for decades, a coin that could theoretically be valued in the hundreds of millions. But the story does not stop at mechanical errors. The value of a coin is also shaped by human imagination, collector psychology, and the myth-making nature of numismatics. People love the idea that treasure can be hiding in everyday objects. They love the possibility that an unassuming penny sitting in a drawer could change their life forever. This passion fuels the search for rare coins. And when something is truly one of a kind, its value is not set by logic or material worth but by what a collector is willing to pay. And in a hypothetical scenario where a 1970 penny embodies every error imaginable, its worth could reach staggering levels. Consider the case of famous error coins that already exist with values in the millions. Those coins have one or two major errors. Now imagine stacking multiple impossible errors together. Imagine a coin that should not even exist based on minting protocols. Something truly unique. Something that historians, collectors, investors, and museums would compete for. In that situation, a theoretical value of $912,000 million becomes part of the legend. Not necessarily a real market price, but a symbolic number representing its impossibility, its uniqueness, and its irreplaceable nature. The 1970 penny is particularly interesting because it already has real-world high-value varieties. The 1970's small date and large date variations, along with double die versions, attract collectors around the world. So the idea that the 1970 could also hold major errors makes the year even more intriguing. And since billions of 1970 pennies were produced, the possibility of a single extraordinary survivor grows. Now imagine the moment someone discovers such a coin. They hold it and feel the weight of history. They see the doubling, the misplaced mint mark, the unusual metal color, the slightly off-center strike, and perhaps even design elements that do not match any known die pair. Their heart races. They research it. They show it to experts. Now dears, we're stepping into a journey that begins with something incredibly small, incredibly common, and incredibly overlooked: the 1971 Liberty 1-cent Lincoln penny from the United States. At first glance, it's just a single cent, something most people hardly think twice about when it jingles at the bottom of a pocket or slides into a jar on a dresser. But as you're about to discover, this modest little coin has a story that transforms it from a simple copper piece into something with a value that shocks even the most seasoned collectors. Imagine holding in your hands a coin that left the Denver Mint in 1971 with a face value of 1 cent, but because of extremely rare and mysterious errors, minting quirks, and astonishing possibilities, has been estimated by some collectors and analytical enthusiasts to be capable of reaching a fantasy-level value of $909 million. As unbelievable as that number sounds, the reason behind such an astronomical figure begins with the mystery and allure of minting mistakes. These tiny, microscopic, and often unpredictable defects can turn an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-generation discovery. The 1971 penny happens to be one of those coins shrouded in potential. Collectors have been captivated for decades by the notion that a rare blend of errors, combined with the unique minting environment of the 1970s, could create a coin so unusual that its rarity approaches the unimaginable. This is not about a typical double die that anyone might stumble on, nor the common worn-out anomalies caused by circulation. Instead, we're talking about the possibility that a single coin escaped from the mint with a perfect storm of mistakes, errors so unique, so layered, and so historically significant that their combined effect places the coin into a tier so exclusive it may not even have peers. To appreciate how such possibilities exist, you first need to understand the chaotic and pressure-filled environment inside the Denver Mint during the early 1970s. The United States Mint was producing billions of pennies during this era, and high demand created conditions that were far from calm. Machines were running at maximum capacity, dies were being used longer than ideal, metal planchets were rushed through inspection, and quality control teams were often overwhelmed by the sheer output required. Under these intense conditions, the likelihood of mistakes didn't just increase, they multiplied. This is the environment in which the 1971 penny was born. And because mistakes in minting are like fingerprints, each one entirely unique, the possibility exists that one penny minted during this hectic time could contain several overlapping anomalies that have never been documented before. Collectors believe that the extraordinary value tied to this coin comes from a theoretical combination of errors so profound that they elevate the 1971 penny from an everyday artifact to a prize beyond imagination. Among these possibilities is the presence of a severe double die on the obverse, specifically affecting the Liberty inscription, the date, and even the portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Such doubling, if extreme enough, can multiply a coin's value by thousands or even millions of times when authenticated. But imagine if that doubling were paired with die rotation, die cracks, lamination errors, or a strike misalignment big enough to be visible with the naked eye. Each of these alone can elevate a coin's rarity. Combined, they can create something unprecedented. One of the most exciting theories regarding the 1971 penny relates to the possibility of a transitional planchet error. Transitional planchet mistakes happen when a coin is struck using the wrong metal. While this is typically seen during years when the mint changes metal compositions, mistakes can still occur in stable years if leftover planchets from earlier eras are accidentally fed into the presses. Some collectors speculate that a rare 1971 penny could have been struck on a leftover 95% copper planchet of the wrong thickness or weight due to a machinery error. If an off-metal strike occurred, such as a penny accidentally minted on a dime planchet or even on a foreign planchet used by the Denver Mint at the time, its rarity would be astronomical. Authentic off-metal strikes have sold for thousands or hundreds of thousands, and in theory, a one-of-a-kind example could surpass all known sales records. The Denver Mint in 1971 was also known for producing pennies with inconsistencies in their dies. Many coins from this era exhibit subtle die fatigue, weak strikes, and variations in the metal flow patterns. These usually go unnoticed or are dismissed as common minting issues, but in rare cases, they can indicate that the coin was struck during a moment when the machinery malfunctioned. A coin that captures the exact moment a die breaks or cracks can become an extraordinary collector's piece. A dramatic die break, known as a cud, for example, can transform the surface of a coin into something visually spectacular. Collectors crave these dramatic features because each one is completely unique. No two die breaks are the same. A 1971 penny with a flawless portrait combined with a massive die break on the obverse or reverse could instantly move into a class of its own. there is also the compelling possibility of a mis-minted mint mark. The small d for Denver located just below the date is applied from a portion of the die that can be affected by die chips, repunching, or machine doubling. In some years, repunched mint marks, also known as RPMs, have become legendary among collectors, with enthusiasts spending years searching through rolls of pennies just to find the perfect example. The 1971 D penny has known RPM examples, but the theoretical ultra-rare version that could be worth hundreds of millions would need to contain a repunching so extreme, so visually striking, and so perfectly preserved that it transcends ordinary rarity. Imagine a mint mark struck slightly to the left, then corrected with a second strike, leaving behind a crisp, shadow-like impression of two distinct Ds perfectly aligned but unmistakably doubled. Such an RPM, if paired with other major errors, could be the cornerstone of a coin so rare that collectors would compete beyond conventional pricing logic. Another factor that adds mysterious value to the 1971 penny is the widespread belief that a small number of coins may have been struck using experimental die polishing methods during the early 1970s. The mint was constantly adjusting tools, testing new polishing compounds, and calibrating machinery. In rare cases, over-polishing a die can remove design elements, creating what are known as missing detail errors. Imagine a 1971 penny where the initials FG on the reverse are completely missing because the die was polished too aggressively. Or one where Lincoln's shoulder, tie, or coat lapel appears ghost-like or partially erased. These vanishings, when extreme and coupled with other mistakes, increase the uniqueness of a coin exponentially. One of the most intriguing possibilities lies in the theoretical existence of a triple strike coin. In normal minting, a coin is struck once. But sometimes, if the feeder mechanism malfunctions, the coin may not eject properly and can be struck more than once. A double strike is already rare. A triple strike, especially one where each strike lands at a different rotation or offset, would be almost impossible to replicate and would instantly elevate a coin to unbelievable value. If the 1971 penny in question carries evidence of overlapping portraits, rotated outlines of Lincoln's profile, or multiple imprints of Lincoln memorial columns on the reverse, it becomes a spectacular anomaly. The value of a coin like this also rises based on condition. A coin with severe errors that somehow remained in uncirculated condition, completely free from scratches, fingerprints, discoloration, or wear is something nearly miraculous. That would mean the coin left the mint, entered the world, and yet somehow avoided every bump, scrape, or abrasion common to everyday circulation. Coins of this caliber are usually discovered by mint workers, coin roll hunters, or collectors who check rolls before they enter widespread use. The existence of a coin with catastrophic mint errors in perfect mint state condition is so unlikely that, if it exists, it becomes priceless. The combination of condition rarity and error rarity creates compounding value, the kind of value that can push numbers beyond what seems possible. Collectors also consider the historical significance of 1971. This was a year of transition for the United States economy, a period when copper prices were beginning to fluctuate, inflation concerns were rising, and discussions about future changes to coin compositions were brewing. A coin minted during this era that captures unique minting characteristics becomes a time capsule of American manufacturing. People value pieces like this because they are more than metal, they are historical artifacts that document the inner workings of the mint during a period of economic and technological evolution. The mystique of the 1971 penny also derives from the fact that stories of incredibly rare coins found in unlikely places have circulated for decades. There have been tales of million-dollar coins discovered in old coffee cans, in desk drawers, in childhood coin jars, in couch cushions, and even buried in backyards.